If a bird leaves the nest too early, it is subject to one of two circumstances occurring. Either the bird will fly poorly or not at all because the wings are not fully developed. That is an example you can use for your teenager leaving the home too early. Society has developed our minds to think that once our child graduates from high school, they are ready to enter the real world. In these days, in this economic times, I don't feel like they are. And I am going to persuade you to allow your child at least until 21 or 22 to remain at home or remain in the parental home. Did you know that according to Independence for Young Millennials Moving Out and Boomeranging Back, individuals born between 1980 to 1984, about 90% of them had left the parental home and over 50% of them had returned. Race, gender, income, or their financial situation had a lot to do with it. However, those are the statistics of what is actually going on. I met a young girl named Savannah. In fact, I'm going to use two examples. I've met a young girl by the name of Savannah. Savannah is 19 years old. She just recently signed for her own apartment, but Savannah's mother has prepared her for that day. As a teenager, Savannah's mother signed her as an authorized user to her credit, so Savannah has a credit score of well over 700. Savannah knows how to budget her money. She's just overall well equipped. She's made friends at work with an older woman who talked her into joining a federal credit union so that she can get a car of her own at a low interest rate. On the flip side of that, I met another young girl, and we'll call her Ruby. Ruby is not completely equipped. There's no savings account for her. It's possibly one of those situations where her mother is living paycheck to paycheck. So she tried to go to college, but unfortunately she had to drop out. Savannah has told me a bunch of hardships that she's actually suffered. While I feel in my mind that neither one are possibly ready to leave the parental home, I do feel like Savannah is a better candidate to be able to leave home. Imagine being 19 years old and you go off into the job market. You get into the job market, and there are individuals that have already obtained a college degree, already have a substantial amount of money saved, have a good credit score. At that point in time, at 18, 19 years old, it may not matter then, but as years go along and the company begins to advance and make more money, it'll matter. You sending your child out into the world, it could be a life and death situation, just because if they're not ready, they're going to fail. They're going to be back at home with you. So why not give them a little bit more time to get themselves together? Did you know that GI Retirement and EverFi surveyed 30,000 college students and found that only 35% have taken a college course? Those are some very sobering statistics, because that means less than half have actually taken a finance course. A lot of that goes into play that I found it very common that a lot of people before the age of 25 have already filed for bankruptcy. They've already had a car repossessed. They've already faced eviction. They've already, per se, ruined their name before it even gets started. And we always wonder where generational wealth comes from. That's where generational wealth comes from. So your legacy that you are forming, if you push your child out too early, your legacy that begins to form your legacy. So your legacy won't do as well, or there won't be as much generational wealth, which causes the family to be stagnant. I think it's very important to stay at home. My daughter right now, she just turned 13, and I could not imagine her leaving home in 5 more years. She's very mature, helps out with her siblings, but I would not want her to have to struggle with worrying how to pay Her rent, which would be probably at her age, a 2-bedroom, in 5 more years, a 2-bedroom will probably be well over $2,000. Managing to pay her car note, so she'd have to work full time as well as go to school full time. That could cause some emotional distress. It could cause her to have mental issues. It could just cause a lot of wear and tear on the body, as she may lose lots of sleep. So she and I have actually sat down and we've had an agreement that until she turns 21 and until she gets some stability, she will most likely be home. We want the best and we want success for our children, but we're not equipping them with the tools to make them successful. Everybody thinks that I taught them how to cook, I taught them how to clean, and that's pretty much it. I taught them, if they have kids, how to be a parent, and they think that that's pretty much it. But that is just the basics. I feel like they need to know how to manage credit. They need to know a lot more. I met someone years ago, and before he was 30 years old, he knew how to pay a mortgage, how to balance a checkbook, how to do all of that stuff. And those are the survival skills that your child really needs before they leave the home. We push our kids out, but they don't have the necessities to make it in life. They may not know how to, it's more than what we teach them. They need to know how to open a bank account. They need to know how to balance the checkbook. They need to know, if you got $20 till payday, how to make it to payday. And then another thing that baffles me is, if we have struggled all of our lives, why would we want our kids to have the same struggles? There is so much debt that is in the world that it just doesn't have to be if we just kept our children in, per se, the nest for just a little bit longer. There's so many kids that we could have saved from bankruptcy, from foreclosure, from all of that stuff that damages them long term if they would have just stayed at home just a little bit longer. So I will say, if you have the means to be able to do so, make your child stay at home for just a little bit longer. Like I said, only if you have the means to be able to do so. Just because they're 18, that doesn't mean that they don't need you anymore. They need you just as much as if they were 1 year old or 2 years old. They need you to develop and transform them for the adult world. Thank you.